Welcome back to Drive Your Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Master Coach Carrie Marshall, and it's time to go after those goals.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited for our podcast interview today. I have Richie Asay on the podcast today. Richie is an entrepreneur. He owns his own business, and he has an Instagram account that I am obsessed with following because your business is a car lot. And so I'm obsessed with cars. So welcome, number one, to the podcast. What is your favorite car right now?
Ooh, you already caught me off guard.
I know.
I don't have a favorite car. There's a lot of dream cars. Favorite realistic car or dream car?
Let's go dream car. I love dream cars.
Dream car like Ferrari or Enzo. Those would be cool things.
The Enzo.
I think, yeah.
Did you go up to the car show last week? I think it was last weekend.
I did not, no.
You were maybe the only person in Utah that didn't make it up there. First time I've been up to the exotic car show in Salt Lake. And
I did see the thing on the news about it. So.
It was insane.
You went to it?
I did, yeah. Our across the street neighbor is a car guy. He restores kind of he does older cars, and then he'll do like specialty custom cars. And so he was like, hey, let's go up. And it was insane. It was super fun.
Gateway, right?
Yeah, I was at Gateway. Super fun, though, to see all the types of cars. And I think my favorite part about exotic cars is watching kids with exotic cars, because it's like they are, oh, look at this. And I've always wanted this. Growing up, I always wanted a McLaren. That was my dream car growing up. And then I realized that maybe I might need to learn how to drive a stick shift. And awesome. I was like, oh, I don't know. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Let's talk a little bit about, why did you get into cars in the first place? Like, what was it about a car lot that either seemed doable to you, or was it a dream that you had?
Probably neither. I guess it's something I fell into. So yeah, just through experiences. I worked at a body and paint shop growing up, and that's kind of what got me into it. I used to like collector cars and all that stuff. So that's what got me into it, I guess. That's
really cool. So it just kind of fell, like you said, something that you kind of went into from when you were a kid.
Yeah, I was passionate about it. Like, I always had a dream of a car, whether that was a Corvette or a Ferrari or whatever it was at the time. And I guess that was a pathway to be able to get there. So I like the business, I guess. I don't know what else I would do. you know, I always think like maybe I would do real estate or insurance or something like that. Insurance sounds boring to me. So luckily I get sick of cars fast. So I have the opportunity to drive whatever, whenever. So
that's super fun.
Yep.
And it's really cool to see like what type of cars you get on the lot. That's what, like, one of the reasons I love your Instagram account is, you'll put something up and it'll be like, hey, just wanted you to know this was on the lot. It's already gone.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's been really fun to just kind of watch what cars you get in. And so let's talk a little bit about your lifestyle, because I think one of the things that I've loved being able to see you and your wife do is create a lifestyle that includes experiences. So why is that so important to you and your wife, to create experiences for you two, your family, friends?
I would say it's like a personality trait, first of all, because it does take work to do those things. I'm passionate about a lot of things I do, and travel is one of them. And so travel, experiences, all of that. I don't know what draws me to it necessarily. I guess objects for me are cool, but they don't give me satisfaction. You could go, I've traveled alone, which I love doing. I'll go eat by myself and all of that stuff. I love to reflect by myself, but I do find myself missing my wife or my family, my kids, stuff like that. And so I think life in general, the most satisfaction I've found is being able to share what I'm doing or experiences with people, so I love to experience something super cool, like an awesome beach or a hotel, awesome dinner. But once I've gone and done it myself, then I'm like, well, this is cool. Like, I love it, but I want to share this. I want my wife to experience it, or my family, you know? And so that's maybe, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think that one of the things that I noticed is you're from Utah, but you surf. So was that part of that, you know, experience of like, how did you start surfing? Was it just
surfing? I like a challenge. So surfing is not fun when you're learning.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like it. I like the challenge of surfing, like learning how to surf. It was the same as learning how to ski. We didn't have any money growing up. And so my ski lessons were, we somehow found a free way to go up to the ski resort. And then the lesson was I went straight down the hill and I wrecked because you have to turn and go slow. Right. And so the same with surfing, like I didn't know anything about it. I love the ocean. I was going over the big waves. Little did I know there's an easier path to get out there. But I love the challenge. And of course the rush of when you actually catch that wave, it gets you back out there, you know? So
it's funny that you said like going up and over the waves. So my dad is huge into windsurfing, kite. What's the new one that he's doing? I always forget the name of it. But he
does everything: kiteboarding, windsurfing.
Yeah, yeah, all of the things that you can do in the water with a board. He's there, and so we were on family vacation this past week, out in California, and I'm watching him. We're at a beach house, and I'm watching him. It's so freaking cold. But I'm watching him and he's struggling and struggling and he cannot get past the break. Mm-hmm. And he is not new to the water. And I watched this other guy come and he just goes right past the break because he knew exactly where to go. And I was like, oh, it's just a new place. You know, we put my dad in Maui. He knows exactly where to go.
Yeah, he's an expert there.
Yeah, he's an expert of that place. But I was like, oh, yeah, just because you know the water doesn't mean you know this water.
Yeah, definitely. And it's different everywhere you go. I was in California last week too. So
yeah, it was
too bad we didn't run into it.
I know. We actually seem to do that a lot where like you'll be in Maui like 3 days before us.
Yeah.
And then I see your pictures. I'm like, oh, you're in Maui.
So we're going to connect though. It sounds like I see your stuff. You see mine. Yeah. So we got to connect one of these times, whether it's in Hawaii or
for sure.
So, but I was tempted to go in the cold water of California. This last trip I didn't, but the waves weren't really that big either.
Yeah.
But everyone was in wetsuits, and my thought was like, I'm gonna go out there without a wetsuit on, just to
be that
the cold
guy
and wake up, you know.
Yeah, so, for sure.
But I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were definitely that Utah family. You know, everyone's walking on their beach with their coffee and their sweaters, and then my kids and all of the cousins are like swimming suits, running out into the ocean. You know, it was really fun. But so. We share grandparents.
Yep.
So my dad and your mom are siblings.
Yep.
And I think that I wanted to kind of talk today about a little thing. Our parents both grew up very blue collar.
Yep.
Very, I would say maybe even lower middle class. They grew up making, food storage was huge for them. Living, canning a ton. My dad always talks about, just being wild and free in the summers.
Yeah.
What do you think has helped us, kind of the next generation of kids, become successful? What do you think that is for you, at least?
Well, for me, we grew up lower income for sure, which we live in America. So that's not really that bad, but I think that helped me become who I am, and I don't know what your experience was growing up. But we didn't really have anything. We weren't given anything. And so for me, anything that I wanted to do, like I had to figure out, and I remember every single thing, like the full suspension bike that I saved the money for, or the trip to Canada with the school that I sold candy bars for, or working at age 12, all of those things. Because at the time, like I felt bad or picked on, like, we don't have money, all these things, but it's like what makes us who we are. And so for my generation, I guess, or our generation, we are in a different generation than them. A lot of them were all doing those things. And, so I guess we all grow up differently, but it just, my mindset, like I went to a funeral from a neighbor that lived in our neighborhood growing up, like probably a year and a half ago. And I left there like feeling so grateful that like in that neighborhood we had nothing, but we had everything, you know? And so that mindset, like for me, like finding happiness, whether we're traveling or here or whatever, it's a mindset, you know? And so hopefully for my kids, you know, me and my wife had this conversation in California. We spoil the heck out of them. And I'm like, my kids have no hope because we got all these electronic devices and all these different things. And we give them everything that maybe we didn't have. And so, again, I don't know if that answers your question, but
I think that really does. I think that there's something about being able to give our kids opportunities that maybe we didn't have. You know, us growing up, we had my dad worked really, really hard to provide us with, you know, some extra things, you know, Lake Powell trips and things like that. But it came at the cost of not seeing him. Yeah. And so in order to kind of have him in our lives, like I would work at the office because I got to drive to and from, like that was really important time with my dad. Mm-hmm. But I noticed that we lived kind of the same type of area. We lived in 2 neighboring towns, but it was that kind of middle class, lower middle class neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that every single one of me and my siblings live in nicer houses than we did growing up. And my mom kind of asked, like, did you feel like that was a bad thing? And I said, I just remember that it wasn't a bad thing. Just like you said, we had everything, but I remember being embarrassed.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I remember thinking like, oh, my friends are going to come, or, you know, my date's going to pick me up from this house. I love my house and I love our neighbors and I love being here. But it was when someone from the outside would kind of see where we lived that I would kind of think, oh, I just don't know. And so when I talked to my siblings about it, I kind of said like, well, what do you think? Like, why are you in kind of the more affluent neighborhoods? And every single one of them said something very similar to that of like, it's not the house, it's not this, it's not that, it's that I want my kids to be proud of where we live.
Definitely, yep.
And I think that was a huge driver for us, you know, was, you know, so grateful for what we had, but we also, this maybe was missing in my life. So I want to make up for that.
Yeah. And I feel the same way, like embarrassment, whatever you want to call it. Of course you want to live in like the cool house and all of that, you know, you feel when you're younger, like that's what the popular kids or whatever had, you know? And so definitely felt that. But looking back now, I'm like you, like so grateful for our parents, bless their hearts, you know, like your dad was a dentist and worked hard, and you know, in our minds, you guys were rich, you know, and you guys had a different situation than us, but my parents, same type of thing. Like they went and worked hard. They served a lot of other people. Yep. We didn't really get money from our parents. We did see them give money to other people that we didn't think we had, you know? Mm-hmm. And so like to see those things was like super awesome because, you know, I remember every Christmas you guys would give us these awesome gifts, you know, and it brought so much joy to us as little kids. Like I remember those things, you know, and so to be able to make that difference now as parents, like I try to do the things that my parents taught us. Like we literally had no money, you know, one Easter, and they gave thousands of dollars to like a missionary that had no money to go on a mission, you know, and at the time, like I didn't understand it at all. I'm like, I don't even have like freaking lunch money, you know, and they're giving everything they have. And so awesome example for me now as an adult, like, hey, let's teach our kids like to give and do those things, even though we're in different circumstances now, you know?
Yeah. And I think that now being a parent myself, I see those types of things that happened when we were kids, and I see I'm like, oh, that's why. Yeah. Right. Like it really does hit differently. So you mentioned kind of that like spoiling of our kids, and my kids are a little bit older than your kids. But how do you think that you now do teach your kids about like service or, you know, giving back or kind of being a little bit more aware of other people around them?
Yeah, it's hard. It's challenging, you know, because they are spoiled. It's different. Like my kids go to Chick-fil-A and McDonald's like every day. Like for me, that wasn't a thing when I was
It was
younger.
Our birthday, right? Like that's when we would go.
Money, and I would ride my bike to go to McDonald's. Like this was an awesome opportunity. We're in a different world now, you know? And so you just try to teach your kids that no one's better than anyone. Like no one stands higher. We don't look down on people. You know, I always just love the underdog, the people. Like I've always had a passion to like try to help other people that maybe are less fortunate, you know? And so just to pass that on to my kids, like, hey, we're definitely not better than anybody. Like you need to get out there, put the work in, serve people. Holidays, I think, are a great time. We put so much effort into like giving our kids these huge Christmases and Easters and this and that, but taking some time to just focus on someone else, serving, giving, stuff like that. Those are a lot of things I remember growing up. And like I said, it's a different time now with our kids, but I think that stuff goes a long ways for sure, you know?
So now, like being an entrepreneur, father, husband, like all of these things, really good friend, how do you set your priorities when you have so much going on in your life?
Yeah, balance is hard, you know, for me, like, again, growing up, like our parents weren't there a lot. And so I try to be there a lot. And maybe that's because my parents weren't there as much. But again, like I'm so grateful they weren't there because that made up who I was, right? And so for me, though, it's like life is so short. We're growing, we're moving so fast. Our kids grow up so fast. And I'm like, there's a short window. And you talked about your dad. Like I saw your dad. He was at the office. Like he was working every day. And it's like he was providing for you guys. And so many people do that. That's like what we were taught to do, especially our parents' generation, you know? And so to see that, like there's just a lot of things I want to be involved in my kid's life, my wife's life. And so I think that drives me and my balance, because there's always going to be like a never ending list. Like I've got my notepad full of things that I need to accomplish, and it's just never going to get done. And that comes through experience, like being able to figure out and balance your time, but we're never going to be able to accomplish those things. But what are our priorities? Are they our spouse? Are they our kids? Is it work? I mean, people are driven by work and success. We all want to feel needed and wanted, you know? And so, for me though, it's just, you know, to balance, home life. I just always try to make that a priority. Fortunately, over time, I've been able to have like a flexible schedule, to be able to do that. But again, like these kids grow up so fast, and you know, we kind of talked about like how I got into the car business. I originally started a body shop. We all go through like wanting to be, I guess maybe for you, a dentist or a doctor or whatever, right?
No, for
I don't know how far you made it in that. But.
I went to college and hit about anatomy and physiology and decided I flunked out of both of those. And I was like, I think I've said this on the podcast. I felt like such a failure because everyone else in my family was really good at school. Yeah. And I have never been good at testing. I'm really good if you can, you know, just talk me through something, but I felt like such a failure in college because of that. And so I did. It was like, I'm going to be a dentist just like my dad and my brothers. And, you know, my sister was on track for that too.
Yeah. And that's success in your mind at the time, you know? And so for me, like a doctor, you know, I'm like, maybe I want to be a doctor. My mom worked as a nurse or whatever. And my brother worked in the ER. I'm like, that'd be cool. Like doctors are rich. They have money, you know, all this stuff. So I'm like, I was in college at the time paying for my own school. And then I had opened a little body shop to do body and paint work. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to just go work at the hospital to see like what being a doctor would be like. So I applied for, it was called an orderly position in the OR. And that's the guy that like goes and basically like transports patients around and cleans up, you know, after the surgery and stuff. And then if you're lucky, you get to like scrub in and things like that. It's a couple-month training. So I went and worked there, and then I realized like really quickly, it was down at Utah Valley Hospital. I'm like, this is like, it was like this room. Like I felt trapped. There's no sun. Like,
no sun.
You don't get to see outside, and there's people here all day. And then I noticed like these doctors show up, like, well, the nurses show up 5:30, 6 in the morning to prepare for surgery, and then the doctors kind of come when they want to come, but they're still there like 6:30 whenever they get done with their workout, you know. And then I'm like, these people are like always here. And like the way the nurses were treated didn't sit too well with me, just because I'm like, they're doing a lot of the work, but they're getting paid a lot less money, you know. And then the doctors, I'm like, well, if the doctor's not here, he's got to make the incision because he's the doctor.
Right.
But if he's not here, he's not making money. And I'm like, these guys are like always here, you know, they're on call, their Christmas, their holidays, everything. And maybe you experience that with your dad and dentist a little bit, you know,
Sure.
emergencies. Sure. And we definitely need doctors in this world, people that are greater than me, that have this greater than me mindset, I guess, that are willing to help people and be there. But for me, that wasn't the lifestyle I wanted to live. I'm like, there's no amount of money you could pay me to be trapped in that atmosphere, you know? And so at that moment, I realized, like, I'm business based. I want to be out in the real world. I could go and paint a bumper and make the amount of money in a couple hours as I made in the whole week there, you know? And so that was a cool experience for me, because I'm like, I knew, you know, I had a lot of work experience before that. Again, I started working like at a really young age, probably 12 years old. And so the work experience was great. But that moment, like, I realized, like, I'm not good at math. I'm probably never going to get through med school. Like, right. I could do anything. I'm capable, but that's just, I'm business based. And so I went to work. I got going on that. And, you know, I didn't make a lot of money at the beginning, but you learn a lot. It's just like college or school, whatever. That was my education. And I still don't have it all figured out. But 15 years later, you know, you figure out a few things along the way. And so I always just made it a priority to have a flexible schedule. I see people all the time that miss their kids' events or holidays, things like that. I'm like, that's just not me. My kids are way too important for that, you know? And that, again, that's a personal relationship I have with my family.
Yeah.
Some people, that's not their priority. Other things are. But for me personally, I'm like, I want to be there for all those things. I want to see them grow up. And, you know, so that's kind of the timeline of what got me to where I went. And I'm very fortunate to be able to have a flexible schedule now. You know, I don't know why I'm blessed with that, because it's weird that, you know, the life in general. I've had the opportunity to sell a lot of cars to successful people that have a lot more money than me, but I've showed up at big office buildings and these guys are wearing suits and ties, all the education in the world, probably hundreds of millions of dollars. And these guys are like coming in early and leaving late. And I'm like, I have something that they don't have.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, in my opinion, like, again, very blessed to have it. And maybe they don't, like, I'm sure they have an awesome life or whatever that's different than mine.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I have the time. I get to travel. I get to do all these things. And I think that's just setting your priorities, you know, to be family based, which is important for me.
Yeah. How do you, like, as you said, like, you started this, you know, body shop, kind of moved through a couple of probably, you know, phases of business. How do you face failure? And, like, what's your mindset as maybe, like you said, okay, I didn't make it that much money, or, you know, I thought this idea would work, but it didn't. So what do you do, or what do you think when those failures have come through your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's stressful. I remember at the beginning of business, like, I care a lot about people, you know, and so, like, if a car would break or something would go wrong, like, I would literally, like, lose sleep over that, you know. And there's things that happen in life, and through our experiences, like, we realize, like, life is not perfect, you know. And so failure, stress, all of that stuff is a big part of business, you know. Fortunately for me, I wasn't married. I didn't have anyone that I was responsible for at the time. And so someone took a chance on me and gave me money to go and start a business. I don't know why, other than that they were probably giving back to the universe, you know?
Right.
And so for me, like, I was a young guy and I had a dealership, and, you know, I always had other people working with me. I gave them opportunities for them and for me also to make the business work, you know? And I remember there's been multiple things that seemed so detrimental at the time. Like, one of our cars got I didn't have any money hardly, and there was a Lexus that we were getting a windshield put in, and that car got totaled, like, by a good friend of mine, you know, no insurance, really bad situation. And I didn't have full coverage. I couldn't afford full coverage insurance, you know, and he ran into the back of someone, and I'm like, I got to fix someone else's car. This Lexus, which at the time was a super nice car, was destroyed, you know, like, no chance of airbags, everything blown on that. And so that was a time when I'm like, it seemed super overwhelming, you know. And so you get through it, I guess, through experiences, I guess. And then I always, again, for some reason, had a very positive mindset. I'm a pretty optimistic person. So,
Yeah.
you know, I find a way to get through it. But those experiences in general, you know, to see like the evolution of time and the stress that goes into all those things that I mentioned, like now, like we just know, like, hey, if a car blows up, like we're going to take care of those people, you know, and like life's going to go on. Like things happen all the time. We just sold a car the other day. That's the first for me, but really awesome guy, returning customer, came and bought 2 cars from us. Just this spring break, he was driving to Arizona and he had a flat tire. Like, didn't know how long it was. He texted his wife like, hey, I got a flat tire. We've got a delay. I don't know how long he was driving on that flat tire. His car caught on fire that he had bought from us less than a month ago. And I'm like, this is great. I've seen cars catch on fire at the auction and stuff before. Like it's a mechanical moving object. Like it's going to happen, you know? And so his car catches on fire and he sends me a picture on the side of the road on the way to Phoenix. Like this car is black. Like you don't even recognize it.
Wow.
And like for me, like before I would have stressed about that, like, you know, and now it's just completely different through experiences. Like I called him, the guy was super cool. Like, probably one of my favorite customers because he was same positive mindset. Like his family was flying out there. All of their stuff was in that car. He got just his computer bag out of that and everything else literally burned, all of their luggage and everything. And I'm like, we'll get you a rental car. Like I'll get you another car. Like we'll do everything we can. And this guy was just like, life's good, man. Like I'm going to spring break. No one's injured, like super cool, positive mindset. And, you know, that was just a cool experience for me because, like, again, previously I would have stressed that like crazy about that and ended up being like a cool situation, you know?
Well, as you've been talking, the thing that like hit me is that I think that our failures when we start out are so beneficial because we need those smaller failures in order to get, you know, experience, resilience, like, really be able to then build on that, like you said, so that those smaller things that happen and we're like, okay, because I think so many people tap out. They're like a small experience and they fail and they're like, I'm done. This sucks. I can't do this. And so then they're done. Or people stick it out and they figure it out and they go back and they try again and they try again. And that's what creates a space where then something else happens and we're like, I got this.
Yep.
You know, this isn't a big deal, which is why I like customer service is so amazing at your dealership is because you've taken care of a lot of different customers with a lot of different situations and things going on where you're like, yeah, we've got it all. I can handle any of these. So I think that that's important. Even as I think about dental school, I'm like, yeah, I probably could have stuck it out and figured it out.
Yeah. I mean, we're capable to do anything, right?
Yeah. I do think though that it's really important for like our younger kind of podcast listeners to know that sometimes there's this space of desire that comes from like just innately who we are. You know, it's so funny how you were talking about being at the hospital and being like, yeah, this isn't my life. I felt the same thing when I was in dental. Yeah. I was, you know, there from 6:30 to 6:30, sometimes 7, 8. And I just thought, this is a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and my friends would be going out or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, like, how does this work? Yeah. Like, how do people create lifestyles that they love plus this?
Impossible. And there is a need for that in this world. Like again, those people are serving really, like in my opinion, they get paid a lot of money,
right?
But they're providing a service because it's not easy.
It's not easy, but I think that there's that desire. And I think that sometimes that's the missing piece is that we have to kind of look and say to ourselves, like, you know, am I willing? Like Nate, my brother has always been obsessed with dentistry. It's like an art form for him. And he's passionate about it. He's amazing at it. And so, but he's created really great boundaries from kind of watching my dad and like, you know, emergencies and weekends and holidays and all of that, where he's like, I'm going to go and do an amazing job while I'm there. And then I'm going to be done.
Which is awesome. He's learned through experiences.
Learned through those experiences. But I see that desire in him and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why, because he is dyslexic. He always struggled in school. He didn't have anything. He had actually a lot more up against him than I did. And he made it work because he was so passionate about it. Yeah. And so I think that that's kind of the cool thing to notice is that when we can create desire and then we put resilience with it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty important thing to be able to do.
And I think like life experiences are priceless, you know, they're so hard when you go through them, but it's just like surfing, like the challenge of getting over that wave is so gratifying once you get over it, if you do.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then you catch that wave, you know, I mean, some of the best experiences of my life were the hardest experiences. Like I went on a mission for 2 weeks, not an easy thing in Utah County, you know. I got my heart broken by a girl at that time, and at that time in my life, like crazy, like, you know, so hard to overcome, but it prepared me later in life for, you know, losing a child or having things happen, failures at work, you know, things like that, where you're like, I can get through this, you know. And it's just, I think those experiences, sharing them with other people, definitely help, because everyone's going through something, and, you know, life's just not easy at all.
How do you go through those really, really challenging times when it feels like maybe either your heart is just completely broken, or it's like, what's the point? Because
it's hard. I mean, we deal with like depression and all these things, and I've been like, it's awesome. We can talk about that, you know. Like I think our parents' generation.
Oh, my
parents, I guess, could talk about it. They, you know, they
your
were
mom's
in
one of the most.
hospital.
I was gonna say your mom's one of the most open people I have ever met, which I loved growing up, because she really was just very open about, because she worked at the psych ward, so she was very
awesome for us growing up. But I think a lot of people weren't able to have anything wrong in their life, or admit that there's depression or any of those things, which are completely healthy and normal, you know. But the question you had was, how do we deal with those?
Like how do we get through those times? Because I know
for me, I mean, everyone's personality is different. Some people drink, some people, you know, handle it in different ways. That's not me. For me, like, I'm a sleeper. You know, if I'm depressed, I try to sleep it off, and that's probably not healthy either. You know, I've my mind, I can shut things out now over experiences, but ultimately, like, you know, for me, when I went through those hard things, you know, your past experiences help. But for me, like the gym, fitness, that was always big for me. Like when I was at some of the hardest times of my life, like staying consistent in things that we're passionate about. For me, that was the gym. So ever since like my freshman year in high school, I went and worked out every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and like continue to do those things, put yourself out there, be around people, listening to podcasts, reading books, positive things, definitely help. But, you know, just knowing, I guess, that everything's going to be okay. But for me personally, like the gym, working out, self-meditation, all big things. What about you?
I think, you know, I suffer with seasonal depression.
Definitely.
And so, so it's weird. It hits differently every year. This last year it hit really fast and a lot sooner than it usually does. But I have a list of just 5 consistent things that I have to do. And if I can't do those things 3 days in a row, then I know that I need to call my doctor, call my therapist, maybe get on some medication. But the cool thing that this has come over years and years of doing this, but it's cool because my mom, my husband, and my sister all know about my 5. And so on those days, and when I'm like, hey, here it is, seasonal depression is here, what we do is they check in with me. And so then I can have those honest conversations. So Curtis can say like, hey, how'd you do on your 5 today? And I'm like, cool. I didn't do anything. I've been in bed all day. But I think that it was the consistency. That's what I really found, was that they're so dumb looking at them, but in the moment it feels really big. It's like get up and shower, you know, talk to someone you love for 10 minutes. I can't remember. I have to look at my list, but
you can literally sit there and watch TV all day and it just makes you feel worse.
It does. So and that's
actually super cool to have this self-awareness and the involvement of your family.
Yeah.
I don't have anything like that. I try to deal with it, you know.
But the consistency of working out, I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to, of, you know, when you are feeling that way, it's so easy to just want to shut down completely from your life. But I think that finding 1 or 2 things that you can stay consistent in really does help you remember that, like, it is going to you're going to get over it, and that life will go on, and you'll, learn from those experiences. But in those gut wrenching times, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to go through.
And we all go through it. I mean, just a couple of days ago, I was driving home like, oh, I just want to quit. Some days are emotionally draining. You're dealing with people and, hard decisions and things like that. And so it's just somehow you got to just keep pushing through it. But I don't know what pushes us to do that, But life is good. It's meant to be enjoyed. And, I think just being able to reflect on that and like, why are we here? Every time someone dies or something crazy happens, like, it's so easy for me to be grateful for what I have. Like, I was sick, before Disneyland with this stupid head cough, and I'm like, I would do anything to feel better right now. I just want to feel normal again. It was just a simple cough, but it's like taking what we have for granted is so easy, and just to try to keep in your mindset of like, of course, there can always be worse. My wife hates it probably when I say that, because it's the wrong thing to say to her. Compassion's another thing that I'm trying to learn, But, for me, like, gratitude, I think, is huge for me. But it's cool to hear your 5 things, though, because that's definitely something.
It's been so helpful.
We've got to meet up.
It really has been helpful because, so like, that was in November, and I know that, going and doing something different, I knew that we were going to be in Maui. And so it was like, I just have to get to that spot. And then, being able to just lay in the sun and, soak up that vitamin D and everything. But it's been helpful to kind of have something to go to where, and I think especially for my husband, who sometimes feels very helpless.
Yeah.
When somebody is going through either something really hard or depression or whatever, you feel really helpless.
And we want to fix it,
Exactly.
We just want to see you happy.
Yep, exactly.
But it's not that easy sometimes. And so it takes you recognizing and being aware of that, and then being willing to hopefully push through it.
Yeah.
It's challenging for sure. I think we have a lot in common because I deal with seasonal depression as well. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why I travel so much, honestly. Yep. Like, people probably don't get it, but like, I put the work in. I work hard. I mean, I was a procrastinator in high school. I still do that every day, but I can get so much done in, a 12-hour day when I put my head down. And so I do put that work in. The seasons are hard for me. This winter was very long. And so for me, like, it is my sanity to travel.
Yep.
And it gives me a reason to work hard, because I'm like, I know I can go to Cabo or be on a beach or experience these things, and it's just, I love Utah. I love leaving Utah, and I also love coming back to Utah. And I think just having, that different areas and different experiences just brings better perspective, because I can be so drained from work here, leave, go on a vacation and be so happy, but then leave the vacation being ready to come home with such a good positive mindset, because I've been able to escape and get out of, the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah. And I do think that has to be so intentional. That's always what we're doing as well. As we think about trips or experiences or whatever, it has to be so intentional of like, all right, head down, let's do this.
Yep.
And then we look forward to, all right, now we get to, go and visit Grandma and Papa in Maui, or, go and do these things. So it's been really a positive thing to be able to do.
And it's exciting to come back, And
it's really fun.
You don't need all the money in the world to do it. Like when we first got married, we didn't really have money, but for some reason we had passion. I'm passionate about planning travel and all of that. And like, we did it, flying super cheap, tons of layovers. Like, it does take a lot of work, but you just got to make it a priority, I guess, because there are opportunities.
That's really important, though, because I do see that some people will say like, oh, I wish I could go to Hawaii like you do. And I'm like, this is new for us.
Yeah.
I'm like, this.
Can.
Yeah. I'm like, and you can.
You can get a $400 ticket to Hawaii probably somehow.
No, for sure.
I used to be able to find those deals.
Yeah.
I don't anymore, but
but I think both of you and I aren't looking for them anymore either. Exactly. We're like, when's the direct flight?
Yeah.
When is it going to be best for our kids? But I do think that that's really important, because that's exactly what we did when we were newlyweds. And, in the first part of our marriage, it was like, where can we travel for pretty cheap? Who of our friends have like parents that have a place that maybe we could stay at? But it was still that wanting adventure and wanting to create experiences together that really was a priority for us even when we were super young. And you just make it happen if you want it.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I think that that's important, is like when you want something, you go out and you figure it out.
You find a way to get it,
Yeah.
And that's travel, cars, whatever you want.
Yep.
I think that the world is awesome. There's so many opportunities and we can really do anything.
Yeah. So, okay. Another thing that you're really passionate about is fishing.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
I don't even know if I'm passionate about fishing. It's a lot of work. Everything I like to do is so much work. Like, have you been fishing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go out there and like, it's a long day. If you've ever gone out and not caught anything, like you come back completely drained. It sucks.
It's a lot.
But again, like for some reason, I love things that are challenging, and so fishing, like from a young age, I loved it. I don't know if it was the neighbors or what, but I always fished around here and did that. And I wouldn't even say I'm like a passionate fisherman, I like the challenge of it. And so, I go out, I love it. I like the rush of trying to find the fish, catch it, and, learning a new trade as well, because, a lot of people go and they fish, but they're not fishing. The boat's pulling it in, so we try to learn and do that. And then, make a difference as well. Like I have a really good fishing guide down in Cabo, and they use every piece of every fish that we get, and he will feed like a village with that, Super cool to make a difference. And another thing I love about him is, he lives in Mexico, not a lot of money there. He's got 2 cute girls and stuff. I'm like, I love putting my money to help people, that can use it and that are appreciative of it. And so I love fishing for all of those reasons. I don't go day in and day out, like one day is usually good. 2, if one of my buddies are there that talks me into it. Yeah. But it's just fun. The ocean fishing is awesome too, because you don't know what you're going to get. You go on a lake here and it's like, you're going to get a rainbow trout. Probably,
right. Yeah.
Where in the ocean, it's like, you don't know what's under that line, and so super fun and exciting.
So in the last couple minutes, what do you think, if you looked back, if you could like give your past self any advice, what would you kind of say to yourself, or encouragement that you would give yourself?
I don't honestly know. Like I said, life's built up of experiences. I was thinking of my son today though, and he's a worrier, and we've all been there. He has his high functioning autism, but his day will get like literally ruined from worrying, about something that hasn't happened yet. And I've been there before, and life is meant to be a good thing, and we will get through everything. And the amount of time we spend worrying about stuff can ruin our day, right? And so if I could teach him something and maybe tell my past self, like, hey, everything's going to be okay, whatever we're dealing with, and hopefully we can teach him that somehow. When we were in Hawaii, there's a song that came on. It says like, don't worry about the things you can't control, and we'd blast that song for him. And I don't know if he knows the meaning of it yet, but we're trying to get it through his head. And, now I'm chill. I don't worry as much. I'm sure there's still more to worry about in my life coming ahead, but it is meant to be enjoyed, and life's great.
Well, and it's that self-confidence that whatever comes up, like it'll either be something that you really can't control, the weather, the this or that, or that it's something that you can get through.
Yep. And
that there's that resilience to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm so excited for the next little phase. We're definitely going to have to hit Maui together.
Yes, definitely. I got to see if I can keep up with your dad.
Nobody can keep up with him.
He's inspiring to me.
So. Oh my gosh. So he just retired last year, and I was talking to him over spring break, and I said, what's the best part about retirement? Because I thought, it's going to be, I'm out at the beach every day. I'm at this. And he said, knowing that I've done a really good job and that I could leave it, knowing that I have done exactly what I was supposed to.
It's awesome. And it's great to be able to look back and know.
Yeah. And I thought that's a pretty cool way of looking at it. I said, it wasn't about money or this or that. I said, that's a really great thing. And he's like, and honestly, I just don't worry about it. He's like, I watch your siblings run the offices, and I'm not like, well, maybe this and maybe that. He's like, have fun.
Yeah, he's the exception for sure. Another reason why I love to travel now is usually when we go to Hawaii, we see a bunch of 65, 70-year-old people that can barely walk. Your dad, I think, got knee replacements, but he's
knees and hips
walking and doing way more than me. So he's the exception, and he's a great example. But that is another reason why we love to travel and do what we do now, because it's like, I'm not getting any younger and I have some energy now. So,
well, and it's like creating those experiences. And that's, I think that's so important, is understanding that we're not trying to work ourselves to death, which is very different than our parents' generation, which I think they still were in that mindset.
Yeah, but what are we saving for?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's enjoy those experiences now, because all we have is today, really.
Yep. So our encouragement to everybody is go out and create experiences, go live lives that you love, and really have amazing experiences with the people that you care about the most.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Yep. All right. We'll see ya. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to get in the driver's seat of your own life, you can come and follow me at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching on Instagram, or come and see more ways to work with me at driveyourthoughts.com.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.